Hey guys, welcome once again to a Neon City Daily Developer Spotlight. I'm Jamie.
I'm Nick.
I'm Josh.
And I'm still Dave.
And today we have on board
Aaron. I was like, where's my cue? Where's my cue? There it is.
I was winking at you.
Yeah, thanks for that. My name's Aaron. Do I just go straight into an intro then?
Do it. Tell us all about you. Yeah, don't wait for our cues because they're never going to come.
It all started on a warm, sunny 90s day. No. My name's Aaron, game designer. Previously worked at Rare, which you'll get to hear a little bit more about later. Currently working independently for the moment while I bring my life back together. Again, probably something that we'll touch on a little bit later on. But yeah, basically spent the last few years as a game developer. So yeah, got a lot of stuff to talk about. I'm excited.
Very nice. And
thanks for having me here.
Not at all. And so you were born in Tassie?
Born and raised, mate.
Born and raised. And you went off to England to work at Rare.
Yeah. So I suppose just to dive straight into that, it all kind of kicked off roughly about 5 years ago for me. So that was around the time that Sea of Thieves kind of got announced as a game. So if you guys are familiar.
Yes.
Very familiar.
Yeah.
Sea of Thieves, pirate, shared world adventure, first person on Xbox PC for Rare. And yeah, basically, I guess once that game was announced, I was like, holy crap, Rare, which is a company that I was very familiar with from my childhood, was making a pirate game, which I just thought was amazing because I'm a big fan of pirates. So
Rare Donkey
kind
Kong?
of
Sorry.
just like...
Yes, I need clarification.
Yes, Josh. Yes. Calm down, Josh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess around that time when it was announced, I was like, oh man, this is something that I need to kind of like keep eyes on. So I jumped into like forums and I, kind of stuck myself in the community a bit, which is where it all kind of kicked off. And yeah, I guess I was just very active, did a lot of speculation, talking to the community, just kind of our wish list of what we would like the game to have been. Then shoot forward like about a year. Rare took notice of my activity and they were like, oh, look, you're quite an active dude in the community. Did you want to like help us out and become a moderator to help us with the Discord and the forums and all that sort of stuff? And I was like, you know what, that's sounds like fun. Why not? So yeah, I kicked off a bit of time doing that during this kind of area of time where I was like helping Rare with community events, promotionals and that sort of thing. I was studying game design at AIE here in Australia, but I was doing it remotely online, as there's no campus here in Tassie. But I kind of just like decided that after trying my hand at podcasting and web development and drawing, photography, just a whole bunch of different creative mediums, I was like, I think one thing I haven't tried and I would like to is making games. So I basically challenged myself to do so. Did a bit of study, and I guess fast forward a bit, maybe 3 years back, I was basically like, hey, Rare, I'm going to be moving to a different country because I wanted to do something different. Like before I went into game dev, I was working as an Apple technician, so I worked on iPhones and iPads and computers and whatnot. And that was fine. It paid the bills or whatever. Learned a lot of, I guess, life skills, and retail does a thing to a person. So,
yes, it does.
There's a bit of that. So I was got to about the 10-year mark with that company, and I was like, I really need to do something else, anything else, really. So me and a friend were like, you know what, let's move to the UK. That's a really out there random thing to do. So we did. I obviously wasn't expecting to land a job with Rare. I was kind of going to go over there, spend a bit of time on holiday, maybe get a bar job, hang out.
The Australian dream, basically.
Basically the cliche of sorts when it comes to people traveling overseas for a short time. But it was going to be an adventure either way. So that's kind of how I took it. But on the off chance, while I was talking to Rare, I had made some contacts within the company, obviously, with having worked alongside them for a few years there.
Yeah.
basically just said, "Hey, I'm coming to the UK. Any chance there's jobs I can apply for?" And Emma, who was the community, I guess, head of community at the time, she was like, "Let me go kind of look into that for you." And so I let her go away for a bit. A couple of weeks later, she comes back and's like, "Hey, we want to offer you this internship," which was an internship as a community and designer. So it's basically like 2 roles in one.
Nice.
And yeah, my mind blew up. I was like, "Holy crap!" Like, didn't have to apply, didn't really go through any formal, any kind of like interview process.
Well, you're a known entity to them at that point, aren't you? Really?
Well, I guess that's kind of it, right? Like, they were like, "We know enough about you. We don't have to interview you." So they just kind of put the offer on the table, and the rest is history.
Very nice. I mean, like, having a contact in a place like that, like, even if you're just known a little bit, like it definitely goes a long way. That's why you should always be active on the forums of the games you want to work for one day.
You reckon?
I mean, can't hurt.
It's definitely, exactly. It can't hurt. That's exactly right. I would say the same thing to anybody as well asking that question. Like, there's really no harm in just kind of getting yourself known by the company.
Yeah.
Trying to be as positive as you can, trying to be as supportive as you can. Those sort of things do shine. And yeah, like without that prior experience of like just, and all it really was just making sure people weren't being dicks online, right? I don't know if we're allowed to swear here. I'm sorry if you
we
have
are
to bleep a thing.
the least family-friendly podcast you've ever come across.
You can drop a bomb or two if you like.
Yeah, good. All right, just wanted to double check. I was like, you guys are Australian, so I made an assumption.
You're very courteous for asking.
But basically just check, sanity check people and make sure that they weren't being a bit idiotic online, and but like from there it blossomed, right? And then that relationship grew. So and like I've kind of had this conversation with a few people now, because it is a very unique way of getting into the games industry. I don't think necessarily it's the most straightforward approach, but it definitely worked for me. So I definitely recommend it as something to anyone who's going down that path.
And I mean, breaking into the game industry is like, it's a lot of like, it's a combination of skill and luck at the same time.
Who you know.
And you look at, particularly in like the fighting game community, I think that you see a lot of companies kind of like spring up, or people go on board who are, first and foremost, they are massive fans of the genre. And so they know the mechanics in and out, like better than most people would. And so when a new project comes up, or a continuation on a project that they're a big fan of, getting somebody who knows the game so well and knows the mechanics is really helpful. And there's people like Seth Killian and all that who have kind of like gone on to as like just the like community managers, much like yourself, and have gone on to make their own companies and make their own games.
I feel like, especially with this particular game, in case as well with Rare and Aaron working on Sea of Thieves, it's a case of it's a very community-minded game.
Absolutely.
I find. So that would definitely have been a boon that he was already kind of understanding the community that was around him. So
was it mainly developed in the UK? Because a lot of game studios have branches and things around the world. Was it a game that was developed there?
Rare does have like partner studios that kind of help the development, but they are all based in the UK.
Yeah, okay.
Obviously, there are teams via Microsoft that are in the US. Which help with like servers and kind of a lot of the the
infrastructure,
company collaboration and stuff like that. Between the two, being a first party studio. But for the most part, anyone who's like actively working on the content of the game, we're all based in the UK.
Okay, so Microsoft do own Rare.
Oh yeah, they bought them a while back.
Right. Okay.
I think like around the time of the 360, or was it the original Xbox?
No, it's 360.
You're asking quite like I know that the transition happened. Like there was people were talking about Nintendo potentially buying Rare, but that never went through.
Yeah.
And then from there, Microsoft jumped in and picked them up instead. I've been honest, like with people at Rare and also like fans and people I've spoken to after the fact, that when that acquisition happened, that's kind of when I dropped off Rare's radar. I stopped really paying attention to what that company was doing.
Right.
I was very much the Nintendo fanboy of Rare.
You were a bit jilted when they made the transition?
No, look, because I guess Not really, because for me back then, honestly didn't care about the companies that made the game, right? Like I was just a teenager who was like, I would recognize a logo.
Yeah.
So I would sit there and go like, oh, like I love Banjo-Kazooie, I love like Conker's Bad Fur Day and all these things. I would see the logo, but the logo didn't mean anything to me other than that, right? I didn't care that there was someone on the other side of it. It was only as I got older that I was like interested in understanding the people that work on the games, and then also kind of like going, hey, I liked this company, I liked this game, let's see what other things they've worked on. But yeah, so at the time, honestly, over my head. I was like, Rare's a Rare, and they make good games. That was kind of it. But yeah, I guess it was a symptomatic thing of like, I didn't really have Xbox at the time, I don't think, when they transitioned over. And then by the time I did come into the Xbox ecosystem, they were working on things like Viva Pinata and other games that weren't probably for me. So I kind of didn't really like pay attention. I have now since gone back and played those games and really, really enjoyed them. But at the time, I mean, I think Sea of Thieves was actually the part that brought me back on Rare. Like I was kind of like, holy crap, Rare, what have they been doing? And then kind of went back and looked at the stuff that they worked on prior. So yeah, I guess it was kind of a revisiting.
As a gamer and not an ex-employee, what's your take on Sea of Thieves? Is it as a player?
Yeah, do you like Sea of Thieves?
Do you like the product? I
honestly,
can be honest.
Yeah, like it would be a hard thing to be like, oh yeah, I worked on it, but I didn't enjoy the game. No,
I don't know, guys. Sailboats.
Yeah. Look, I very much enjoy Sea of Thieves. I think it's a super special game to me, not only because it's the game that I've worked on as my first title in the industry, but it's special to me because of I don't know, it's something about Sea of Thieves. I've never experienced gaming moments like I have in Sea of Thieves. I think
completely agree. Had the same experience. Yeah, it's
kind of like there's a lot of those water cooler moments for me and my friends where we can kind of go like, oh man, remember that one time? Like, you could play. Say, I don't know, another example would be like, oh, you could play a good game in Halo or something, or you could play a good game in another multiplayer experience and be like, oh, that was a lot of fun. But I don't think those things necessarily stick or last with you, whereas there's stories being had or stories being told within Sea of Thieves.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but that was the original intention of the game, wasn't it? That was like almost the tagline, like they want to give you the opportunity to go and create your own stories, memories, and adventures.
Exactly. That was kind of Rare's mantra when they were going into the project. It was it's players creating stories together, essentially. And that was, when they were prototyping the game before it was even Pirates, it was basically, we want to create a game that is shared world, that it kind of the mechanics and the things that are in it bring players together and have these unique experiences, and they can kind of tell these stories together. So and then kind of the pirate theme like fell into place almost immediately after they kind of started prototyping. So like it was again, like I said, it's a super special game to me. I've had the most memorable moments, some very positive, some kind of negative, but then also those are also important in their own respect, I think. And I just like the pirate themes, my dudes. I can't get out of that, Like any pirate game, I'll kind of it'll.
I would prefer playing as Hornblower, but
you have requested we call you Hornblower in game, Josh.
I have, haven't I? Yeah.
You could just blow a horn while you're playing the game, man.
That's true.
But so you went from working within the community to working within the company itself. But when you were working with the community, what kind of things were you doing? Were you like taking ideas and requests and kind of like suggestions that the community were putting forward and bringing them to Rare's attention, or were you doing something else?
That's actually, it's a good question. I guess it was very much a what do you guys need at the time? They did what they called they created a group of us, which there was about 12, I believe, at our maximum or at our peak, and they called us deckhands, right? So very close to something else, which I
couldn't even guess.
Some fonts don't show the word in its best light, but this group of us, they were basically, again, engaged players, people who were like very heavily invested in the community. So they would get us to, we would scour the forums if there was something of note or something was really getting to the communities, any thorn in their side, we could then bring it forward to the developers direct and kind of go like, I don't know if you guys have seen this. And it was kind of just a visibility thing. But then also just the general day-to-days was like, log in if you see swearing or anything or any kind of moderate things that need to be moderated, work on that. We did like giveaways and stuff for a little bit there. So Rare would essentially gift us a whole bunch of like DLC code essentially. And then we could then take that out and hand it off in the forums. We did a few different little competitions. So I've kind of worked on a few of those throughout my time, was like coming up with incentives for people to engage in the community. And then just like, if there was a big event and we knew that there was going to be a lot of players and there was going to be a lot of messaging, it was kind of having us on the ready to field questions and help people who are having problems. So like anytime a big update came out, we always knew there was going to be like a server problem or there was going to be something that may go wrong. So it was kind of being on the ready and just helping out where we could. And it kind of helped as well because we were all on different time zones. So there was like 2 or 3 of us in almost each region.
So we didn't have any instances of like, quick while the Australians are asleep or something.
Yeah, exactly. So there was always at least someone online.
Good old Australian flag burning.
Yeah, exactly.
I have a very important question.
Oh, no. Go for it.
I swear to God, Nick, you have no faith in me.
We're all a bit of trepidation going with the other 3.
Should I be worried? Okay, I'm worried.
I'll always be worried when Josh speaks.
They're lying. Okay, it's an in-game scenario. You're cruising along in your ship. You see, you're on a mission or a quest and you're with your mates. Anyway, you see another player ship on the horizon. Do you instantly forget about anything you were doing at that moment, chase them down to the ends of the server and try and kill them? Or do you continue on your merry way and hope that they ignore you?
Look, I'm terrible at PvP. I'll be upfront. Like I have gotten better over time, but for me, I'm all about working out what they want to do first. I see the ship on the horizon, right? And I'll have my agenda. I'm like, maybe I'm working on a certain commendation or I might be doing a particular thing. But I always kind of keep them in the back of my mind and I'm always on the ready. And if they look like they're coming over to have a little tickle or a little fight, then I'm up for it. I'll definitely put it back to them, but I don't go hunting as much. Depends. There has been sessions where I would do that. For example, when we released out the Reaper's Bones update, that was kind of where I was like, you know what, I feel like I should go into a Reaper's mood today, and that's when I changed the hat, and it's like, okay, let's hunt people now. But typically in my day-to-day voyage, I would say. I would be very passive. I'd wait to see if anyone else wants to have a go first.
Now, see, that's an excellent answer in my opinion, and you should really know that Josh only asked that question so that you could justify his behaviour, which the rest of the crew is right down
the most
disastrous behaviour.
Yeah.
I just look at it as I'm a pirate. They might have treasure.
Yeah, look,
we need to kill them.
Unless our boat is full of treasure,
strategy.
Then we don't need to kill them.
That is 100% in your right in the game. You can do that.
It's always fine until we've got too much treasure to lose, Josh. Let's just get that.
He's putting up the PV play.
Josh is always on.
No. It was Jamie that logged on, said hello, left, and it was about 10 minutes later we noticed that he was flying the...
He'd put the flag on our ship up.
I just gave you what you wanted, buddy.
Good. Yeah, look, I mean, there was always people I would play alongside who were more about that cutthroat life, and I was fine with it. Like, I would support it. They would always like to kind of shoot themselves over and have a little, scout out and see what's going on. Maybe tuck for a little while and see if they could find anything, or keep eyes on them. But I guess for me it was more. I know that some players don't enjoy that part of the game, so I'm more waited for people to come to me with the fight, and then I'm like, okay, well, this person obviously wants it, so let's go for it. Whereas, I know that there can be a lot of fun that comes out of just going and barraging on people, but there are others, and also like the younger audience and some other people as well that may not enjoy that. And I kind of, it almost felt bad on me. I didn't want to put a negative on someone's experience, so I always just waited. So.
What? You guys always stop me. I tell you what, we're talking about the game and how it's designed to, create and invoke feelings, memories, and stuff like that. And on the subject of battle, the one time I managed to convince, I think you were on, and I think Stephen, a friend of ours, was on. Don't know if you were on, Nick. When we were going to a Skull Fort, and we saw a couple of galleons there, and we were thinking better of it. But by the time we got there, I think, Jamie, you had the idea of running up the Alliance flag.
Oh, yeah. Well, I called out to them with, like, the big speaker.
Yeah.
And we ended up, like, having, like, this 3-ship alliance with, like, a bunch of, like, these New Zealand guys.
Yeah, that was some of the best memories I've had that just organically happened.
Yeah.
And this is exactly the point, right? Like, you have an expectation and you kind of go into it with that, and then it could flip on its head completely and just become this magical moment.
It was so good. We were all on this fort. We were all like having a great time. Just like no one was attacking anybody.
Everyone kept saying sorry, didn't they?
Yeah, because we were bumping into each other as we were like moving loot back and forward. So it was very apologetic, quite Canadian. And we all three of us, we were all like sailing on to drop our treasure off. We were having a great time. And then these jerks kind of just like came out of nowhere.
They
and
did, just as we were.
All of us.
Yeah.
They took they ruined us. It was just one ship, and I couldn't even be mad because like they blindsided us so expertly.
Yeah, it's still one of my most beloved in-game screenshots. Is when we all grouped up with the New Zealanders, and that's trans-Tasman relations right there. We're just improving them.
Yeah.
And so bringing things back to development, once you kind of moved onto actually like interning into Rare, what kind of duties fell on your shoulders, and what could you take into the experience going like, well, I'm a player, but now I'm a developer, and I kind of have like ideas about what I feel needs to be tweaked, maybe I can kind of like have a hand in changing.
Yeah, for sure. I guess like it was a magical experience. Like the first week of Rare was just insane. It was so welcoming. I felt like I was already part of a family. Everyone was just so welcoming and whatnot. But like it honestly did shine a little bit where people were saying like, we know that you play the game. We know that you love the game. So it kind of felt like immediately my opinion was heard, and my opinion was actually held a lot of weight, like it didn't take me months of work to kind of get that respect from anyone. It was very much like, hey, you're part of the team now, like what's up, and kind of talk us through certain things. And I'm not, there was definitely things that as a player, I was like, I wish this was better. I wish this was different. And you would talk to the developers and they would kind of say, well, yeah, look, we had the same thought, but this is why we couldn't do it, because there's actually like either a limitation, like a console limitation, or there's maybe it changed the way that certain mechanics would work or interact. So they basically had to make changes to help with that. So I kind of felt like once I gone in and I said, hey, can we change this? Can we change that? Go through a shopping list of things. They kind of like either convinced me that was the wrong thing to do, or they were like, well, yes, we would love to do that, but this is why we couldn't.
Right.
And either way, you were listened to, which is got to be pretty.
It was
nice.
It was good to, like I said, it kind of made me feel comfortable immediately, and I didn't. The first day was very nerve-wracking, like it was very intimidating. But once I'd kind of gotten into my group and my team, and we kind of talked things through, I was just like, oh no, this is super simple and straightforward. Like there were days where I kind of felt like I had apps, like you get that kind of the imposter syndrome a little bit, where you just feel like you shouldn't be here or you don't deserve it or whatever it may be. But it was, again, always there was a supportive person around the corner that was kind of like, no, hang all that. This is why you're really important to us. As far as like what I got to do, the intern year was interesting. Initially, it was kind of like, hey, you're going to do a couple of days in community, then you're going to do a couple of days in design. We quickly realized that wasn't the best use of my time, because it kind of meant that any project I was working on was broken up into half weeks. Yeah. So we ended up changing that to be more, hey, you're going to do a couple of months here in community, and then you're going to go do a couple of months over in design, and we just did it that way for the rest of the year. And yeah, I guess community side, it was very much the same as what I was already doing, but getting paid for it.
Nice.
But
then also like working on some of the infrastructure for the community as well. So we got to rework the forums a little bit. We got to update some of the stuff that are like more rankings and stuff like that in the forums. I'm not sure if anyone here's actually been on the Sea of Thieves forums, and I don't. It's fine if you haven't. But yeah, just like we went and changed a few things.
Yeah.
Do you have a preference as to what kind of work you enjoyed the most? Was it more the development or the community management, or was it you take either?
They both got their strengths. And yeah, I have nothing really negative to say about either of the departments, but definitely my passion is in design, and I think Rare kind of recognized that very early on, because we as we did that kind of split of here's a couple of months there and a couple of months here, it started getting less and less community, and it became more and more design by the end of the year. The team felt that I was helping, I was contributing in a way that they really needed me. So the guys that were on the design team were always asking for me for longer, so that kind of happened naturally. But then also because of how much I enjoyed it, I kind of also requested that I continue to stay in design. Which, and I never really got out of the community stuff. I stayed in it and I kind of helped where I could and stuff like that, but I did do less and less of it as the year went on.
As far as design goes, then, so you were learning online game development, and that was a couple of years before you started working in the UK. You would have learnt an extraordinary amount then, I imagine, on the job, as far as the actual development work is
like
concerned.
Everything I learned at school, it was helpful, but I felt like within the short 2 years that I was at Rare, I learned maybe 10 times more than I would have if I continued on the course that I was on. Like, I did a short course with AIE and finished that. And then I was partway through a diploma. So I started doing the game design diploma, or the advanced game development diploma. And, then I got the internship. So I basically put down that diploma and haven't touched it since.
It's a wise decision, really.
I haven't gone back to it. But I think the on-job learning was, most valuable. And I think I learnt more than I could have in any educational
absolutely. I myself, I've done like a bachelor in game design, and when I came out the other side of it, I was like, I'm not prepared at all for any kind of actual development. It was all theory and all kind of, there was no real hands-on learning. It's just like, why do players play? And
and don't get me wrong, like that is still it's something valuable to know. Like it's I think those things will start to pop up in conversation. Like, let's say tomorrow you were to get yourself a job in a studio as well, right? And you went away and did that. You'll find that things that you learned throughout the course and conversations you've had or topics that you've covered will pop up, and you will kind of have that moment. But as far as like working in a team and deadlines and milestones and all these sort of things, like and then I guess as well just the technical actual development stuff, you wouldn't be prepared for it. Like Rare, although Sea of Thieves is made in Unreal, there are a lot of internal tools that are all specifically to that company. So you could know a whole bunch about Unreal, but there's still going to be learning because the tool sets are different. So like it was the same for me. And again, it was quite early days for my second course. So I reckon there probably would have been other things that would have come up and would have been helpful to have known while at Rare. But thankfully I had a lot of really good
sounds like you had a good support structure.
There's no learning like learning
the,
on the job.
The lead designers and the creative director, Mike Chapman, were just like, we would have constant meetings and stuff like that. Like, we'd catch up once every couple of weeks or whatever, and just shoot the shit and just talk about design, things that we've worked on in the past. It was quite a good thing. And if I ever had questions, I knew I could ask them. Like, I wasn't ever afraid to make myself look silly by asking the question. even if it felt like it might have been the most simplest thing, they kind of were like, no, look, you're here, you're learning. This is what it means, or this is what this is. And yeah, like I said, it was just mind-boggling information went in 2 years for sure.
Is there something in the game then that you could log in and point at and say, that was me, or I helped?
Yep. Definitely. Yeah. There's plenty. So some of my absolute favorite things that I could say that I've contributed most to, or like I had a hand in, I guess we'll go to the very first one. First of all, my name is in the game multiple times.
Nice.
So when you go to Cannon Cove, for example, there is the barrel in the cave, the central cave, and there's like a coin on top of it.
Do you know this?
And a dagger in it. Yeah, so the Aaron Lee that's written on the barrel, that's me.
We certainly will have listeners, I know for a fact, that will go, oh yeah, know where that is off the top of my head.
Yeah,
I'm pretty
exactly.
Sure
So, I mean, there is a commendation tied to it, because the Legends of the Sea content went back and said, like, here's achievements for finding them again. So for players that didn't know they existed, you could go and find them. But yeah, so that's my name, and that was put in the game before I even worked at Rare, which is just insane. There's a whole story behind that I could go into, but it might take some time. We'll see if we get there. But essentially, they were like, hey, name in the game. That's one place. I've got my name in a couple of different places as well. You might find me as a skeleton captain that you could fight and defeat as a name above it. Like, I think for the captain, I might be under is Aaron Nielson, I think. Or no, or actually, I think it's Aaron Lee, but it's like an extended AAAR.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
so,
Real priority on that one, yeah.
But as far as like actual gameplay, things that you can do, Legends of the Sea was my baby. So we needed something quick and easy to develop early in last year, in 2020. So this was the update that came out in January. We needed to have something that we could develop before we went on holiday in December. So we were actually working 2 months ahead, essentially. So admittedly, it was a lighter month as far as content's concerned, which the players definitely made vocal. But it was just a nice little thing that we wanted to do. It was a celebration of our players. We wanted to go back and revisit those immortalizations, those Easter eggs that we put in the game, and just kind of highlight them and bring forward that content for people who just had no idea it existed. So we introduced a new character at that point. So I helped out with the development of arrrh, who's on Lagoon of Whispers, which was fun because I got to kind of work alongside voice actors and audio teams and stuff like that to kind of get that up and running. The actual immortalization stuff itself, like the Easter eggs, that was also my project. So I actually ran a small, I wouldn't say ran a small team, but I kind of worked alongside a small team of people. And we would put forward players from the game and say like, hey, look at this cool thing someone did online. How do we immortalize that? Or how do we bring that into the game and celebrate it? And we would then create these Easter eggs that we would bring forward every now and then.
The community focus is insane. With Rare. I knew it was a good community, as far as online communities are concerned, but
they take it so seriously, man. Like they love the players and they love everything that comes out of the game. Like just again, those stories and stuff mean heaps to us. We get emails constantly, or we had got emails from people that were just going through things like depressions and whatever else, and just the good that it would bring them and their family, and just people who are not gamers who would play it and really enjoy getting lost in that world as well. So there was plenty of really like touching moments, and even more specifically on the Legends of the Sea stuff. Like I put these kind of commendations in, and I helped with the writers to write the text for them and stuff. And then when they went out to the players, the emotions, the pure emotion out of the players, they already knew that the Easter eggs were in the game. Like they've seen them before, but then seeing them again with the commendation and with this additional little text to kind of give context, they just lost it, like tears and emotion. And to me, that was like one of my proudest. It's probably going to be like a career highlight for me for a very long time. Just being able to bring that to people. And then the next thing that I kind of had a big hand in is the Vaults of the Ancients update. So the Gold Hoarders treasure vaults. That's essentially my baby as well. I came up with the design, worked alongside the lead designers and the creative director to kind of land on that concept. I pitched like 12 different ideas, and we finally like went with that one, which again was fine because it was actually the first thing I pitched, and then we kind of went back to it after I went through the other 11 things.
Yeah.
Are they the ones that we've done?
Yeah, we've done a bunch of them.
Yeah,
we have hammered them pretty hard, actually. So
yeah, the treasure vaults are good fun as well. Like that was just it was flexing kind of some of the tools that Tall Tales brought in, and trying to bring them into the main gameplay loop again. And we wanted something that like players could fast track, right, through knowledge and understanding. Like you kind of get to a point where X marks is kind of a little simplistic, where you know the island, you know where the X is, and that sort of thing. This isn't that much different. It is kind of running through the compass loop, but when you get one piece of paper and it has the X on it, and then you feel like an absolute badass because you know exactly where it is and you can just go and do it without having to complete the rest of the voyage.
That was actually what I was thinking, was because we have specifically played a game with a guy that because I mean I've been playing since day one, and he just I kind of took a bit of time out because I can't remember why. I just didn't play for a couple of months. Then I went back,
which is fine. Yeah.
Have a break. Yeah, they went, hey,
his knowledge is intimate.
Let's go to a vault, and we literally got the first piece of parchment, and the X happened to be on it, and he was immediately just like, "Oh, that's that island."
Yeah,
and I just stood there like, "You're going to be wrong. You have to be wrong. That's not a thing." But he banged it on right there
when he wasn't playing, and we jumped on as a group.
When we were streaming,
what happened there? Was it just as well streamlined?
It was about the same. Yeah, I think we might have had to get two pieces of the map.
You and Jamie were standing on that island trying to find it. You were increasingly drunk.
Yeah, I was being
angry.
A real
He was role playing. He was role playing pirate very well.
Yeah, role playing.
Yeah,
it was so frustrating because I swear I checked in the place where it was, but it was just like I just had to go like a couple paces more forward. But I was like digging up near like the cliffside. I'm like, is it over here? Where the hell is this thing?
And at this point, Nick's just yelling and not offering any decent advice.
That's so good.
But what we can do now is just call you.
And also,
that's it. You've now got a complete. Well, I mean, I shouldn't put myself out like that because I reckon if you come to me with a question, I'll be like, and get it wrong. But look. Yeah, so like Vaults was a lot of fun. That was a good fun thing to work on, and I guess I'm also most proud of that update because all the updates between those two, like January through to September, I had a hand on a whole bunch of things. Like I would help wherever it was needed. So I could definitely point at things and go like, oh yeah, I fixed that up and I changed this and I made that thing happen. But like the Vaults thing was kind of where where our leadership teams were like, okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to give you designers kind of a month that is yours, and you have X amount of months to complete something to do in that time. So we're almost working well ahead of ourselves and leapfrogging over each other. So yeah, like September was my, I wrote all the documentation, I pitched it to the team. The team, agreed. We then reworked and rehashed the design to make sure where it landed. Then we went through the process of sending it to insiders and getting them to QA test it and kind of give feedback, which we did make a bunch of changes during. Like the vaults as they turned out were kind of different in the beginning. So it was interesting to see where they eventually led to. And yeah, I guess like now when I see that that content and when I go through it, I can kind of like relive the journey that was getting it from nothing, from a piece of paper through to something. Yeah, very cool. I enjoy that one a lot.
And that's a hell of an accomplishment for a first, to go from active on their forums, complete unknown entity, to literally, influencing the product.
Exactly. And that's it. Like the journey itself has been unreal. Like it still doesn't feel real a little bit. Like
much
that
like the
even
engine
happened.
that the game runs on.
Thanks, James.
That was so low hanging.
Even I didn't go for that one, and I was tempted.
I missed it. Someone said something in the background there, and I didn't catch it, and I'm sure it was hilarious.
It wasn't. You didn't miss anything.
You didn't miss much. It's okay.
It's just a link between you said Unreal and then the word engine
All right,
was mentioned.
you don't
It's
explain
fine.
jokes, guys. It's fine.
worse when you go back for a
Look, I
second
needed
run.
the explanado. Thanks for that. I appreciate that.
But with the treasure vaults, you're saying that they weren't quite exactly how you initially envisioned them. Was there like particular content that had to be cut because it just like it didn't fit, or you couldn't do it with the tools you had? Or I mean, is there anything that's lying on the cutting room floor and you're kind of like, I wish we could have had that?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I'm sure this is fine to talk about because it's kind of the discussion of the content that now exists. I just got to be careful with sometimes when it comes to things like NDA and whatnot.
Sure.
But like, I guess talking about the vaults, because that's the thing that I'm closest to. Originally, and what we were going to we almost went down this route, was the vault was exactly the same. It was going to be treasure and content for you to get within a time limit, but instead of the door closing behind the player, we were actually going to have a spiked ceiling. So we're going to have like this looming kind of like spike wall coming down toward the player.
Almost more dastardly.
And and like it sounds badass, right? Like it's kind of like, oh my god, that's the thing that you guys. Why didn't you do that, you idiots? Like when we pitched the idea, it was like 100%. That is like Indiana Jones to the max. We need to like do something down that round. But once we kind of got into the actual development of it, it started to show that it wasn't as strong as we had thought. Because there are things like, well, the rooms themselves are quite fitted.
Vertical,
so to make sure that the spikes worked and looked good from an arts perspective as well was a bit of a challenge. But then also like players that were running around in that space in first person, it's a bit hard to tell how far in danger you are. Like you can't actually like look up and get a good read on it. It would kind of feel a bit of a, pretty intense that you look up and there's some spikes a little bit closer to your face, but you wouldn't have known when the hitbox was going to kill you. Like you wouldn't have known
how would
where
you
that stuff's going to happen. So we kind of found out really early on that it wasn't going to work out and it was going to create a lot more problems for us. So we ended up having to quickly rethink that. I like where we landed. I guess as a designer who often looks at what they've done and kind of goes like, the perfectionist in me, I suppose, would say there's probably things that I wish I could do differently, or I wish I could have done a little bit differently. But as far as what we ended up delivering, I'm super proud of it.
I think the solution for that particular problem was quite elegant. Like you could turn
flooding.
You see that the door closes behind. If you don't get there in time, then the water fills up, and so you got time to think about the decisions that you've made in your life,
where you went wrong,
where things went wrong for you.
Or just make a mad dash for all the loose coins.
That's right, and I guess that's it too, right? Because the from a actual development standpoint, coming up with a spike ceiling, that was a whole bunch of new work, things that didn't exist. Whereas the flooding was already in the game through Tall Tales, so we kind of were essentially reusing that element, but we made a change where we super drown you, and it makes the drowning process a lot quicker. Otherwise, you'd be sitting around in that room for 5 minutes.
Just eating bananas. Exactly. Can't believe this.
So we do a little bit of trickery where we super drown to make sure that even if you were to pineapple, you can't pineapple for that long that you would be in there forever.
Nice. I love that.
So I guess I suppose the door thing worked. It was elegant. We kind of liked that you were shuffling things out of the room, so you would see the door lowering in front of your face. That kind of worked a little bit better, but then there is still, like, when I look at the overall experience, there are still things, again, like I wish that I could kind of add a little bit more audio, or maybe change a little bit of the VFX just to kind of help sell the moment a little bit better. But we did with what we could, and I think it still works. It would definitely, when I saw players get a hand on it the first time, there was definitely a lot of confusion because people were going in with the assumptions that were made through Tall Tales. Like they go, I know how a Tall Tale works. Right. So when I go into this vault, it's going to be very similar. And it ended up not being that, where players thought, if you end up getting the medallions in time, then it will stop the door from lowering and it will stop the water from rising. No, the door's closing regardless of what you do. Like it's happening. So that's kind of that was what interested me a little bit. I wanted to make an experience that was a timed thing. It was predictable, but also like unique in that respect. And I also like the idea of frantically kind of like, I don't know, it's almost that overcooked.
Yeah.
Right.
Feeling of kind of going like, well, if I'll get all the gold piles while you go up on the platforms and drop the chests down over the side, and all this sort of stuff, like where you try and plan ahead of time. And Crew's got really good at it. Like, it's not the hardest thing. You can clear those vaults pretty good with a competent crew. But yeah, like, it was just a lot of fun to come up with that.
I think I was the only one who was outside when it closed. When we did our story.
That's because you knew what was going to happen. You're like, they won't figure the puzzle out. They're done. But yeah, I mean, and I guess like kind of just moving into talking about Rare as a company, it's like something that I was always kind of curious about was that like Rare are a company that are known for doing, like different types of franchises and a lot of like really beloved games that are different genres. And I kind of heard, once I heard that they were doing Sea of Thieves, which was essentially going to be an MMO of sorts, like an always on, always persistent, constantly updated game. I did wonder how big is the team at Rare at the moment, and do they have like multiple smaller teams working on different things? And I mean, I guess so, because Battletoads is a thing.
I guess like, I don't know the specific number, but anytime I was included in like Rare all emails or like, big all hands, the numbers of the team got up over 300, I think. So it is quite a large one. That is including, I would imagine, the sister studios and the other companies that work alongside Rare. But yeah, look, there's teams working on so many different things, like even just within Sea of Thieves. Sea of Thieves itself has multiple teams working on different aspects of the game, where they all kind of cohesively will fall into line, and they kind of all work through the year's calendar. So there were things that would go to Sea of Thieves that I would have absolutely no idea anything about it. Like I wouldn't have known, like, what's an example? The Ashen Lords. I knew the Ashen Lords existed. I had never played against one. I've never killed one. And then it got to the game and I was like, let's go see what that team did, because I didn't know. Like, I hadn't tried any of it. So there are, it's interesting when you get to a sized team like that. There are, I mean, if I wanted to, I could have definitely found out that information beforehand, like if I wanted to go and play it early. But it also kind of felt nice to leave things uncertain and unknown.
You want to be a player.
Yeah, so I could go and say like, oh, let's go see what that new thing is, and kind of enjoy it as someone who wasn't spoiling it for myself ahead of time. So, but like big studio, multiple projects. I mean, obviously, Rare's announced Everwild as well as one of their next titles, and I'm excited to see that team bring that forward, because it's got a lot of really good potential.
Nice.
Can't really talk much more about it other than that, but like, it's good game. And I'm sure the team's gonna do well with it. And then I guess like as well, the Battletoads thing was a partnership. So there was a small team working on that. I kind of had a very small hand in that, and by that I meant I just played it a couple of times and gave feedback. Like, I don't think I necessarily affected its development that much. Like, I may have found a few bugs that may not have been caught before, but the team that was working on that also did a very good job. And the game like isn't the kind of game that I enjoy, but I do like I appreciate what it is and how it works and that sort of thing. And
I'm a big Brawler fan, so it was a really nice surprise to see that Battletoads was just. It had been
coming
revived.
back at all.
It's been so long since like the Super Nintendo era. We haven't really seen a new Battletoads, so pretty good.
My so you may not be able to talk about this, or you just don't want to talk about it, and that's fine. But you obviously had great passion for this game, this studio. But now you're back in Tassie. Can you talk about your departure at all?
Yeah, no, I can. It was kind of extremely uneventful and also very depressing. Depressing in the sense that it was over, I think. Like,
right.
It wasn't my leaving was not due to any kind of like ill feeling. It was not a issue with my work or anything like that. It was purely just a circumstantial thing from the world's climate at the moment with COVID.
Right.
It was also to do with like Brexit a little bit, changing things like working visas and how they work
Of course.
to some degree. So
Yeah,
it was kind of like a cascade of different circumstances all happening at once. Like my intention when I came back to Australia middle of November, I think. And my intention was to return, fix up my working visa, which was coming due, like for early this year, and then go back. And I was going to go back to Rare. That was the plan. And so I didn't really pack anything up. I kind of left a lot of stuff in the UK, which I'm still trying to work out now currently. But I guess once I returned and then I started to see these issues arise and I was like, oh, hold on, this isn't actually going to be as smooth a transition as I thought. Rare worked alongside with me to try and get me back. They wanted me back. We did what we could, but hard decisions were made, and ultimately that meant I wasn't going back. So my time was cut short. Unfortunately, like I was planning to give Rare as much time as they would allow. Like I was going to give them another, 2-3 plus years, and then see where things lie. But yeah, it kind of had to be cut short. Who knows? There may be a time in the future where I can go back. Who knows? Like Rare would 100% welcome me back, I'm sure, if the opportunity arose. But at this time, like that's not a possibility. So I've kind of got to look at what's next and what I'm going to be doing.
It was just a perfect storm, wasn't it? Really, of unfortunate circumstances.
Yeah, it really was. Like again, my intention was 100% to return and continue the good work and have a lot of fun with the studio. That's just it felt like family. Like I made a lot of really good friends, which thankfully a lot of them still keep in contact. I get up really early in the morning to play games with them at their night time, so we time zone difference it. So yeah, we jump into Sea of Thieves from time to time just to shoot the shit and kind of just go through with it. But look, it's a bit of a bummer. I definitely had a few weeks where I was just like, woe is me, this is terrible. Just because I knew what I was missing out on. But
for sure.
Once I started then changing my perspective a little bit and was thinking more about like, well, this is actually a good opportunity to help grow the industry in Australia, because that's something like I'm proud of the work that Australia is doing. Like I'm proud of the indie games coming out of the country. All the different funded projects and some of the studios that do still exist down here. But obviously it is a lot smaller than the world's scope. So, if I can contribute in any way to make it stronger and to bolster that bolster communities and bolster the industry itself at large, then hell's yeah, I want to be part of that. So
absolutely.
Yeah, so I'm kind of putting it my thought on it that way, like just being positive and saying like, right, well, you learned a bunch of stuff. Let's keep going. Let's do the next thing.
Good on you. Like, I mean, I think the one of the things that I really lament about just the game industry in general is that just Australia really hasn't gotten its ass in gear in supporting it. And like we have like so many great games coming out that are, from like smaller groups. Like, I mean, we like Untitled Goose Game was an Australian game. Like Necro Barista was like another one that came out, and minimal government support, I'd say. And it's one of those things where we could do so much and contribute culturally in such a huge way, but the opportunities just aren't there. So the growth of the game industry here, I think it's really important that we do that, because it's a growth industry, and Australians have games that they want people to play and stories that they want to tell, and they just need that support, and that's absolutely.
Well, year on year, it's exceeding even the movie industry.
It's been like that for decades.
Things like that, isn't it? Like from a dollar value, it's
it's definitely not going away anytime.
Yeah, definitely not something to to sleep on or whatever. But the and then like I said though, that's it. Like while I was in the UK, I was keeping track of the different studios here, and they're all smaller studios, a couple of person teams. But always enjoyed, and anytime I saw that there was an Australian-made game, I'd always make sure I would buy it. There was a lot of really good stuff coming out on Switch last year. Like Boomerang Fu, I've been completely in love with. It's just a fun little party game, and I'm a big fan of League of Geeks and the work that they do.
Oh yeah,
with like Armello.
Yeah,
and so there is a bunch of really good stuff there. It's just finding it, and then also knowing that there are others that are trying to do the same thing and trying to tell their stories, but just not getting the opportunity to do so. So I guess like as well, part of my approach to this return is like I've just kind of put myself out to introduce myself to everybody and get to know who's around. Like, I kind of started talking with you guys. I wanted to know more about what you were doing, even if it's just even if you would say it's just a podcast in quotations. But you guys are talking about the stuff, right? You guys are talking with developers and getting to know these people and whatnot as well. So I wanted to be a part of that. I wanted to see what you guys are up to. And then, like I've made an effort to go and meet other people down the south of the state. I've sent emails out to people, even if they're not advertising jobs. I'm just sending emails to any studio that will basically listen. To say that, hey, my name's Aaron, this is my situation, and just like, hey, like if you got any opportunities, let me know, but if not, like let's just chat.
We've actually because you're based in Launceston at the moment, aren't you?
Correct. Yeah.
See, we actually did the trip up there a couple months back to go and talk to some guys making a little collection of games called Shape Versus.
Yes, I'm familiar with the people
Smash
on
Attack.
that team. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so
and there are people locally, which is exciting. That's great to see that is a thing that's happening,
and that's exactly what we are trying to do. Is
highlight that,
that really. Just
there's a surprising amount of game devs in Launceston. Who knew?
Exactly.
It's unfortunate, but it's the reality we live in.
Don't start the Launceston talk, Josh. Don't kick that rivalry up again.
Look, I wanted to. Well, I'll give you this one. When I came down to Hobart the other day, I was going to go to the pub and get a beer, but then I remembered that Cascade's a thing, and so I stopped. And
did you know they were both once the same brewery?
But still, there's a distinct taste difference between them, irregardless of where they're brewed. One tastes great, the other one tastes not so.
I'm trying to bring us back together, you guys.
Unity, yes. We want to support the industry. We want to support everyone.
No infighting in this
unless
industry.
it's in
Let's go.
No, we just all hate Devonport, don't we?
I think we can universally be like,
My dad's from Devonport.
But look.
Good luck to you.
It's been a lot of fun, guys.
I really do hope you, do what you set out to do, and that is to find somewhere a bit more local. And it's by the sounds of it, anyone that does take you on is going to be better for it.
Well, you're already heading off to hey.
This is it. Like, I guess I can talk about it. I'm in talks with the guys at and I'm hoping that they like me, and I'm hoping that ends up becoming a job. Time will tell on that one.
And would you be moving up to work with them, or are they doing work from home stuff?
They're doing a little bit of everything, but I think for me, if I was to join that team, it would be a remote thing, so I wouldn't have to leave Tassie, which is a good thing for now because traveling and being mobile at any point is not that great within a pandemic.
Times,
but but like as well though, it means that I can kind of pick myself up a little bit from the UK drop. It costs me a bit of money to return, and it's going to cost me a bit of money to get a bunch of my stuff home, and so not having to worry about moving to another state is probably a good thing.
That'd be a bonus, realistically.
Yeah, so it should be good to kind of get back on my feet a little bit and start, bringing things back around again. But look, we live and learn, and here we are. We'll get
absolutely.
We'll keep playing games.
We survived 2020. We can survive the next year.
That's
right.
Yeah. How it couldn't possibly get worse.
Yeah.
Don't say it. Now you've said it.
But well, I guess we'll start to wrap things up here. But I guess just in your own free time, are you working on any projects? Do you have anything that you're kind of like tinkering with?
Oh, look, before reaching out to all the different studios, I was kind of like, well, what could I do for myself? So I did think about like maybe just doing some small project stuff myself, more just to like relearn some skills and go back into Unity for a little bit, maybe. I've got a couple of ideas for some maybe some mobile titles, like some mobile games.
Oh yeah.
I've also got a couple of board games that I'm starting to develop. Like I think a goal for me is to develop a board game. I'd like to get a board game published, essentially, and that would be something to put onto my career resume and just be like, look, one time I worked on a video game and then I worked on a board game over here.
Should put you in touch with the 219 guys. They'd probably have some good advice for you.
219, not familiar. You have to help me
Kingless. Have you heard of Kingless?
They just finished a Kickstarter for a card game called Kingless. It's
I think actually, hold on. I think that has come up in conversation before. But I haven't checked it out. I'll be honest. So I'm going to have
definitely
to
check it out.
It's really good.
It is good. Yeah.
But yeah, look, I'll give you the premise of my board game, just in case one day you see it on the shelf.
Sure.
And you go to buy it. So look, I really badly wanted to make something overtly Australian, and I want it to be like true blue, kind of like an Australian's going to relate to it straight away. So I'm thinking what I'm going to do, or what I am doing, is I'm creating a board game all about cooking a barbecue.
Nice.
And it's basically you competing against others on the street to have the best barbecue because you all decided to have a barbecue on the same weekend. And so you're trying to cook your meat to perfection while screwing over the other cookers, and just trying to have yourself the best time and the best barbecue with Goon of Fortune and beers and all sorts.
It sounds like
I hope there's an
friendship
outsource option, because every time I host a barbecue, I make Dave cook.
Hand the tongs over.
Yeah.
So look, I think that would be a little bit of fun. Like, there's a couple of mechanics that I'm kind of excited to explore within that premise. But yeah, look, it'll be silly. It'll be a little fun, but maybe something.
It sounds like it's a really good premise for like an amazingly fun party friendship ender, which always excites me. I love that feeling in any game.
You did like that aspect of Kingless.
I'm starting to get a bit of a running theme with you, mate. You got yourself.
Nick enjoys ending friendships.
Yeah, that's right. He's the Eeyore of the group.
Thanks, bud.
Wow.
Anyway, we'll leave it there.
After that.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah.
You shit on me all the time.
It's
you know
true.
it. Yeah.
It's true.
Anyway,
thank you for joining us.
No, thank you for having me on, and it's always good fun to just chat and
absolutely. And it was good to get some insight into a game that we all enjoy. I know a lot of our community enjoy as well. So, and I think, sometime down the track, it'd be great to get you on again and talk more in depth about those in-game memories that you've created for yourself and some of your favourite stories. So
maybe we should all play some Sea of Thieves sometime.
That's true.
Oh yeah, look, like I'd 100%. If you want to kick someone out of your crew and slot me in, I'll be in for it. And yeah, like, let's do this again. I've got plenty to talk about, so we can definitely make a thing of it.
Awesome. All right, Aaron. Well, thanks so much for coming on and chatting with us and sharing your experiences. And
thank you for listening.
To all you at home, good night.
Bye.